Kelli Green, and I'm an author. And I wrote a short story called Elizabeth, and I wrote that actually back in 2017 when I was still at Pensacola State College, and it was for a competition, and I got third place. And I've taken that story and I'm writing around it for my current work in progress.
I'm Charles Davis. I'm interviewing Kelli Green, the author of this fabulous short story that everyone should read. There's a reason it went. What did it do?
It got third place.
Third place?
Oh, you mean
most recently?
On Amazon, it was #1 in new releases and short stories for young adults.
I mean, that's beautiful. What inspired you to write this story?
Well, so I have been playing with like a nuclear family of characters in my head for a long time. That sounds weird. But like I was trying to write a different story a long time ago, and it wasn't going, but I had the characters in my head, and so the narrating character, Mariana, she's always been one that I pictured. And so when this competition came up, I knew I had to write something short, but fast. And so I used a character I already knew. And then it just sort of, it just flowed.
I know you said it's a short story, but
Mm-hmm.
where did you go to write this? Like, what headspace did you get into? Like, did you have to put yourself in, like, these characters' shoes, or?
So I do this thing, and again, I don't know if it's weird. I can only tell you what my process is, but I like have conversations with my characters, a lot. So if something goes through my head, I'm like, I wonder what one of my characters would say in that moment, or something, or when it's time for me to actually sit down and write, I usually have I play out the scene physically, so I have to write alone. I can't write in public because it's really weird. So I play out the scene for real, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, I like that. That feels natural, and then I write. So yeah, I'm really interested in introverted. I don't know, whatever, into myself when I have to write things.
How was the process in writing this story? Like, just explain that a little bit.
Okay, so like I said, I started with Mariana in mind, and it's weird to explain how these characters work for me, because I honestly I've thought about like the sort of specific family of characters for such a long time that I know their lives in and out, if that makes sense. And so I just sort of picked one time in her life that I felt I could write about and get the most out of at that point. And so I started with that, and then I built around it. And actually, so the process, I realized that I wanted to do more, and it was a short story competition. So that's kind of what led me into going, okay, well now I can write the bigger one, which is my story I'm working on now, which is going to be called May. And so because there was just extra things I wanted to say, other things that I thought were important, and so I poured that all back into there. So the process is like infinite, I guess.
All right, how important was imagery in the story? Because when I read it, I pictured everything you said because you were so detailed, especially in the beginning. So how important was the imagery for it all?
Imagery is really important to me. I like when I'm reading a story that I can see and sense and what the artist is trying to say. So I'm glad that that came across, because I just really wanted because like I said, I know my characters so well that I want them to be displayed as well as possible, and I can't draw, so I feel like writing's my only strength in that manner.
I understand that one completely. Trust me. Now, one thing I didn't really get, or I don't know if it was meant for us to get, are Mariana and Elizabeth like strictly platonic friends, or is there something under it?
Yeah, so the age, I don't know if I mentioned in the short story, because like I said, it was a longer one and I get confused as to what I've already said, but Mariana, it's like a sisterly thing.
Okay.
They're both young, but Elizabeth is somewhere around, she doesn't know her real age, so, well, it's a spoiler if you haven't read it yet. But anyway, but she's somewhere around 12, 13, ish,
Okay.
and Mariana is 16. And I know that both sounds young, but in the past, people were expected to grow up a little faster anyway, and she is sort of. I do mention this in the short story, and it's not really a spoiler. She's masquerading as a little bit older than she is, Mariana.
Yeah.
But still, even 16, she sees her as a little sister. So so platonic and familial is the relation between them.
So, this is something for me I wanted to know. You being the author, what did Elizabeth wish for? Or is that like up for audience interpretation?
Yeah, so it it's kind of an audience interpretation thing. There's not a finite answer to that, but if I had to answer it, it wouldn't have been an object. It would have been more like a different space in her life where I believe she wished for a sense of like stability and
Okay.
a home that was actually a home and not like a little random place where she lived with her, like something real. And she's just a kid. A future. Oh, she wishes for a future.
Oh. Oh, that makes. Oh, jeez. Okay. Meg, the title of your whole
May.
book.
Yes.
Firstly, why the title Meg?
Well, a few reasons. First of all, so the narrating character from Elizabeth is the main character of the book. Her name is Mariana, but she does get a nickname eventually, and it's May. It's just a semi-shortened version of her name, but also her birthday's in May. She comes to the new town in May. It's just all very integral. And then when I think of the month of May, I think of flowers and growth and change because the season is kind of kicking off, and spring and stuff. Well, spring changing into summer, really. And so that kind of made me think about it because I think when I think of the characters, I think of growth and change a lot.
Beautiful.
So.
Awesome. What can we expect in the book?
Well, so for readers that have read Elizabeth, I know that there's like a pretty big spoiler, I would say, at the end of Elizabeth, and
It's a big one.
yeah, and I think that some people might be like, well, how are you going to put the characters back in? Because, so the timeline's going to start before the timeline of Elizabeth starts, and it goes on after. So there's a lot more to it than you would know by just reading that. And I got to dig deeper because, see, what happened when writing Elizabeth is that I really cared about her character, and I cared about their bond, and I wanted to dig deeper into that. So there's more from what you've already read that'll be displayed in different ways, because it's not going to be a word for word recopy.
I can't wait. When should it be released? When should we be looking for it?
So I'm working on the editing process right now. I'm self-publishing, so it's all done by me. It's so hard.
Hashtag independent.
Yep, I'm an independent artist right now. So I'm working on the editing. I'm doing it all myself because I can't afford an editor. But I'm really excited, though, because it just gives me a lot more time to work with it. I think that I'll be done with the editing process before the year is over, and I would say you could look forward to seeing it in release before February, I would hope.
Soon.
And yes, soon. But you should keep up with it. You can follow me on Goodreads. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter. And I talk about my work, and so I'll try to keep everyone updated. And also, if you've bought the book, if you've downloaded it, I have a synopsis for May, and I talk about it coming. And so just follow me, and I'm gonna keep my readers updated.
Awesome.